ride out for her till the end. Because that's what you do for your family.
You do what you have to protect the people that you love.
Family's everything.
What was your reaction when you first received the script?
Well, I kind of knew the writer, Ronan Bennett, he sort of called me and he talked me through what my storyline would be, but he gave me a gist of it. But I obviously being explained it and then reading it is completely different. So when I read it, I was like, oh my goodness. That was my reaction. I think I was like, this is wild. But it was also like a great thing as well to be given such a meaty, important story to tell. And I think as any actor, it's like that's what you want, isn't it? You want these parts to really sink your teeth into, to explore, to be able to create something incredible. It's not just, a few lines here and there. It's like something to really immerse yourself in. So yeah.
Was that quite daunting to kind of take on that task?
I wouldn't say daunting, because I feel like that could potentially have like negative connotations. I think it was more so I was aware of what a huge responsibility it was, but one I relished and was more than willing to take on. I think especially with the nature of the storyline, I wanted to give it as much, do as much justice as I could to the part. I knew that this was an important story to share and to tell. I think especially, because we started filming it during the pandemic, during lockdown, and domestic violence and domestic abuse was at an all-time high at that time. It really was, because if you look at the figures, like it really was. So I contacted this charity called Refuge. They're an incredible women's domestic abuse charity, and I spoke to them about my role. Not really I just wanted to get like a few bits of advice, and they ended up being like massive support to me. And like, they educated me, they advised me, they're still in contact with me now. And I hope to continue to work with them, throughout my career, but they were just so helpful. And it was an amazing thing to have them on board to guide me.
So how did it feel kind of going through those emotions to kind of channel domestic abuse through this storyline? How did it feel as an actress, it must have been really heavy, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I underestimated the effect it would have on me as a human being as well. Like not just me as an actor playing a part. Like it was heartbreaking at times. It really was. And what I found the most heartbreaking about it was I was acting it. I wasn't going through it, right? So I think the realization that I could go, I go to set, I do the scenes, I can walk away and it's not real. Whereas there are women that day in, day out, they wish they were acting. They wish it was all just an act, but it's not. They actually have to go through that. So that when the reality of that sunk in and hit me, it made it all the more real and like, wow, I need to do this as much justice as I can.
How do you find respite after that? Like, how do you, obviously with it being so heavy and so close to your heart, how do you come away from the set and then find yourself again, come back to like center?
I mean, how? No, you're right. No, I just take it really easy. I come home. First thing I do is I run to my cats and give them my cat. I give them the biggest hug ever. I run a bath. I watch The Office. The American Office, because that'll always put me in cheer me up. So, I watch that and I just, I spend time with my family, that's home to me. That's like they're my safe place. So that's.
slice of happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously between the last season and this season, Lauren was exiled at the end of the last season. And then we find her at the beginning of this season and she's pregnant. Like, how did she end up in this situation and she's in such a toxic situation? How did this happen? What did we miss?
What do we miss? I know. It was quite a jump. I think in between that, obviously what's gone on, Lauren's a survivor, and she kind of was in a state of, you know, fight or flight mode. You know, she has been shunned from home, you know, everything she knows, her mother, her sister, her friends, and she can't go back. She's been exiled. So she's now come to a strange town that she doesn't know, and she's found safety in the arms of a man that she so desperately wants to love her, but he doesn't, not in the way that's right for her. So, you know, she's caught up in a really terrible situation, but she's alone, she's isolated, she knows no better.
So did the creators give you her backstory between that period, or do you have to kind of fill in the blanks as you know your character so well?
It's sort of up to me to fill in the blanks. I think, of course, they kind of give you an arc where they're like, okay, so basically what's happened from the last point, you know, she's left summer house and now she's ended up here. In between that, she's sort of met this guy, blah blah blah. But you know, they give you a gist of it. But I think it's important for any actor to sort of have that for themselves, to create their own backstory. So because then that's how you feel connected to a character, because you make it your own. It's not just someone giving you the facts. You have to have like a personal investment in what you're doing.
Yeah. So obviously Lauren's no stranger to bad relationships. Why do you think she's always drawn to such toxicity? I
think for me, again, this is the kind of my backstory that I've created for her. I think that Lauryn has grown up in an unstable environment where love is not something that's healthy for her, especially, you know, she lives with her sister, she lives with her mum, but you never hear about Lauren's dad. You know, within the script, you always hear, oh, where's mum? I want to see mum. Or Jax, my sister, will talk about mum, but you never hear about the dad. So I think that Lauren has an unstable, unhealthy relationship with men because she's never had the love of her own father. So I think she searches for that in men.
From the first time we see her in this season, when she's on the phone to Jack and she's begging to come home, to that very last moment with her and Curtis, how do you think she kind of grows during that period?
Now, this was a tough one for me because obviously I think she comes out on top at the end, and I think she fights back and she, again, survives for herself and her child, because I think that she probably feels like if she fears for her own life. Yeah, she probably feels like this man will be the death of me, quite literally, and my unborn child. You know, he has no respect for her life or her family's life. You know, he quite literally tries to kill the people in her life. So I think that the way I felt was I in no way wanted to glorify the situation or say, look, if you're in a domestically abusive relationship, kill the man that's doing it to you. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there's a strong sort of subliminal message there for women that, you know, you can fight back. And that's by no means saying, you know, you should do it physically, but there needs to be a mental fight within you that you can win. A man shouldn't.
And she's able to kind of get to the point where she feels ready to fight for her own life, for her own safety.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that the storyline, what happens in Top Boy, it's an extreme version because it is acting. It isn't real. So for, you know, story purposes, they give you an extreme version of what's happened. But I think there is a message in there for all women, for anyone, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, men are victims of domestic abuse as well. I think it's a message for anyone watching that you can fight back.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes Lauren can kind of come across as naive or in need of like saving or babying.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's true of her, or would you say that there's actually a lot more to Lauren than we realize or than that's seen on the surface?
I think at first there is a naivety to her, but I think that that naivety comes from a place of just desperately wanting to be loved. I think the thing with Lauren is her heart is always in the right place. She's not malicious, she's not spiteful, she doesn't do things from like malintent, or, you know, it doesn't come from a bad place. But, you know, it just doesn't turn out great for her. But I think she grows up. She does grow up across the series. She does. But, you know, also another thing, like, I'm 30 years old. Lauren is young, you know, she's in her early 20s. When I was in my early 20s, I was naive. I still can be at times. We're always learning, we're always growing, you know?
Yeah, I get that. So, you know, we've already spoken about how heavy that storyline is, but it's not the only heavy storyline that would have happened on set. How do you guys kind of shake off that tension? Like, how do you have a bit of fun on set?
You know what, we just have a lot, like, honestly, like, everyone, we play these quite serious characters, but everyone is so funny. Like, so, like, Jasmine and I are howling on the set to the point where, like, I'm like, Jasmine, right, you need to go away. Sometimes I say to Jasmine, don't talk to me today because I've got some hard scenes to do, so you can't chat to me the whole day because I can't be seen out here. I can't have that funny laughing energy in me. I need to be sad today. But yeah, no, we just chat, we hang out, we eat together, we laugh together, you know, it's good.
Who's the kind of joker on set? Who's the more serious one? Who's the calm one?
Ashley's a wind-up merchant. He is, in the best way, you know.
I'm not surprised. Why am I not surprised?
He really is, like, he's just cheeky. Ashley's got like these, just something really cheeky about Ashley. He's got that little twinkle in his eye and you're like, uh-oh, what's he on today? Jasmine as well, she's a joker. Adwa's funny. Adwa's got this wicked laugh. She's got one of those laughs where it's like, it's literally like a dirty laugh that is just so contagious.
I love that. You need that kind of energy, especially when you, like I said, you're going through all these heavy scenes. You kind of need to take a break. Obviously, you're fortunate enough to work with a really creative team like Ashley and Kane. Would you say that you benefit from working with them, from their experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, Ashley's like, you know, him and Kane are obviously execs, and Ashley especially, he is like, he does this beautiful thing of like being the dad. He's like the daddy. It's like Succession, do you know what I mean? He's like the helm of the empire. And he really sort of like mentors, looks after people, and, you know, he just wants the best out of everyone. He wants to make sure everyone's comfortable, everyone's happy. And yeah, I think that he really does treat it like a family. So
it's nice to have that kind of guidance. You kind of sometimes need that, don't you? If there is going to be another season, do you think that Lauren will have to face up to the kind of repercussions of what she did to Sully in the previous season? We haven't really seen that in this season. Do you think
you don't see that this season? So if there were to be another season, I think there needs to be a bit of a confrontation there, or like not a confrontation, or some sort of like a conversation and acknowledgement of what's happened. But I think, you know, you do see a scene in this season where, you know, she's in the house with Ashley and Jasmine and Kane. So Sully, Deshane and Jack, sorry, just to make it easier. And, you know, you've got Sully in the back. He's not really saying much because I think at this point, the situation is so much bigger than what has previously happened. Okay, I snitched before. We've now got a madman running around whilst I'm pregnant. That is trying to kill us all.
There's a lot of tension between V and your character Lauryn, would you like to see the return of V? Would you like to see Lauryn confront her in another season? What would you like to happen with that relationship?
Though, as my character Lauryn, no, I never want to see V again. But for like entertainment purposes, yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see what would happen there. I guess it's a really tricky one because it's like, it could go one or two ways. It's either that V's going to have a huge vendetta against me because I've taken the life of her beloved brother, but then also I've now birthed the child, which is a part of him. So would V want that on her conscience of taking away the mother of, you know, a young child? Who knows?
Or would she come for the child?
Yeah, would she? This is it. She could be like, that's it, I'm taking the child away. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. So Ava and Howard, they're quite terrifyingly intimidating as their characters. What was it like to work with them?
Ava is the sweetest girl in the entire world. Like, you'd never know. She's like, hiya, how you doing? You know, she's really sweet. You know, because she's authentically from Liverpool. She's just like, hello, girlie, how are you? And she like, you know, she's just a beautiful person inside out. As is Howard. But, you know, Howard has like this, you know, he's got this intensity to him anyway. You know, he's quite an intense person in the best way. But I think the biggest sort of transformation is Ava, because it's just so far from who she is. But it was wonderful working them. It was they were such a great addition to the Top Boy family. And yeah. What
was it like for you watching back that scene when Lauryn confronts Curtis?
Yeah, you mean at the very end?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. I mean, I cried.
Oh.
I did cry watching it back, you know, because, you know, I feel like I gave so much to that scene. And yeah, it was a lot. And it was, you know, it was, as an actor, as a person watching that, like, I gave so much to it, to see it back and see that, you know, I was happy with it. In the worst way, I was happy with it. You know, I was.
You know, I guess it means that it came across as authentically and emotionally raw as you wanted it to.
100%. And you know, it was the director, William Stephan Smith, is like, he's a sensational man, and he really gave me the space and the time and the room to be comfortable with it, to sit in it. And, you know, his guidance was, you know, invaluable. Like, he was just wonderful. And, you know, I couldn't have done it without him. I couldn't have done it without, you know, my scene partner, Howard, you know, because he's the victim. So
what does Top Boy mean to you, and the stories that you guys are telling through Top Boy? What does it mean to you?
I mean, it means so much to me, because I think that all these social issues that Top Boy covers are so relevant. They're so relatable to not just the people that are similar to the stories that, you know, or the people that are within Top Boy. Anyone can relate or learn from it. I think it's like an educational show, really, isn't it? And it gives people an insight to the real London, because I think that, you know, people that perhaps, you know, aren't from the UK, you know, if you're from, they kind of, you know, London has this connotation of, oh, a cup of tea, silver spoon, the Buckingham Palace, and it's not that. It couldn't be further from that. We are not like that. So I think, you know, when it makes me laugh, you know, my cousins, they're all they live in America, Ohio, Cleveland. So, you know, they're like, Wagwan blood. And I love it, because they're like, y'all, I didn't know y'all spoke like that. You know, where's the food, bruv? They love it. But, you know, they're like, they didn't know. So I think Top Boy is it is an educational show. It doesn't glorify things. It's not glamorizing the culture, but it's showing the culture.